There is a pattern that I see in patients who have just committed to changing their health. They arrive at the first consultation having already done a remarkable amount. They've bought a coaching package or a wearable or a 12-week program. They signed up for blood tests and investigations. And some have already started a supplement stack based on a podcast they half remember. They're organized, motivated, and genuinely relieved. And that relief is the part worth paying attention to. What I have learned watching this unfold dozens of times is that the moment someone commits financially to a health intervention, their nervous system behaves as if the problem is already partly solved. There is an immediate emotional settlement, with a spike of hope and genuine sense of forward motion. And it is real, physiologically, psychologically, biochemically. Dopamine does not distinguish between actual progress and the anticipation of progress. So our brain registers the purchase as a win. That is not a flaw of any particular person, but rather a feature of how our reward system works. The brain likes resolution, the case closed framing, and handing over the money for something that represents change is emotionally a form of closure. But change is not a product. Change is a wage, and the currency is time, repetition, discomfort, and patience. The body does not remodel in response to a transaction. Your skeletal muscle does not hypertrophy because you own a set of dumbbells. Your mitochondrial density does not increase in response to buying a pair of trainers. Your insulin sensitivity does not improve because you hired a coach. These are biological adaptation, and biology operates on a completely different currency. It takes repetitions, it takes mechanical tension, metabolic stress, progressive overload applied consistently across weeks and months. And none of that can be purchased, it can only be performed. So what happens, and I see this repeatedly, is that the emotional reward of the purchase quietly replaces the motivation for the actual work. Not because the person is lazy and not because they lack discipline, but because the reward system has already been fed. The anticipation circuit got paid early. And when you have already received a neurochemical reward for something, the drive to really earn it through the effort is significantly reduced. This is why gym memberships become donations, programs become unopened files, and wearables end up in a drawer after 6 weeks. The purchase was not a failure. It did exactly what purchases do, produced a clean, immediate emotional return. The problem is that the person mistook that return for the thing they actually wanted. I want to be precise about the distinction because it matters clinically. A transaction is an exchange. You give money, you receive access, you receive equipment, a service, a plan. This happens in minutes and it's clean and complete. A transformation is a biological and psychological process. You give sustained effort and you receive adaptation, slowly, unevenly, imperceptibly. Muscle remodeling takes months, and so does cardiovascular adaptation. Metabolic recalibration in someone who has spent a decade in caloric excess and chronic under-recovery, that takes the better part of the year. And none of it feels like progress while it's happening. No receipt, no confirmation email. The progress only becomes evident when looking back from the end of the path. Buying is sharp and earning is repetitive. Buying gives you a narrative, I'm finally doing something about it, but earning gives you evidence, and this evidence accumulates so slowly that most people abandon the process before it becomes visible. I will put it more directly. If something can be completed in one sitting, it is not change, it is preparation for change. And preparation, while valuable, is not the same category of thing. There is a useful way to think about it that I sometimes share with patients. Imagine you purchase a car. The specification is perfect. You sit in it, you hold the steering wheel, you enjoy the smell, you can even picture the journey. But if you never put fuel in it, never turn the ignition, never drive, you have not gone anywhere. What you own is merely a symbol of movement. And you may feel, sitting in the driver's seat, a genuine emotional sense of being in motion, but the odometer reads 0. A significant amount of what is sold under the heading of health improvement operates on this exact principle. It sells the emotional sensation of being in motion without any of the friction that actual motion requires. And that is precisely what makes it so appealing. The purchase is frictionless, the adaptation is not. What people are paying for, in many cases, is not the tool, it is the optimism produced by that tool. And that is fundamentally different product from change. Now, I'm not saying don't buy anything. That would be a foolish position. Money can buy you genuine advantages. It can buy safer training environment, better diagnostic access, and expert interpretation of data that would otherwise be meaningless. It can reduce logistical friction, and for a time-poor responsible professional, that friction is often the thing that stands between intention and actions. Money widens the gate, and that matters, but it doesn't buy the walk through the gate. And this is something I observe consistently. Two patients, radically different financial situations, arriving at the same outcome. One has access to every tool available, advanced diagnostics, bespoke coaching, pharmaceutical support, and does not change. Another has relatively few resources and changes profoundly, because tools are not change. They are leverage on change, but only if effort shows up to use them. Now, let's address something more uncomfortable, because it's relevant to the kind of patient I typically see. Yes, you can pay for pharmacological interventions. You can pay for peptides, hormone replacement, injectable therapies. Some of these produce measurable biological effects. I'm not dismissing that. But even when the body changes, the person may not. Because the change most people are actually pursuing is not different lab values or different body composition. What they want, and this becomes clear over months of working with someone, is to feel legitimate. To feel that the improvement is theirs, that it was earned and owned rather than administered. When someone arrives at a result through consistent, unglamorous work, the training log, the dietary discipline, the sleep architecture they rebuilt week by week, there is a specific kind of internal settlement that I have never seen replicated by any intervention you simply can buy. It is the piece of evidence, evidence that you did the thing that cannot be attributed to a transaction. And when that evidence is absent, when someone has purchased the outcome through pharmacology alone, for example, there is often a quiet hollowness afterwards that they did not anticipate. They got the result, but the result does not feel like theirs, because legitimacy of the result is not a product, but a consequence of sustained exposure. This same mechanism, incidentally, is why announcing your plans to someone else feels so satisfying. Imagine you decide you're going to change something. You tell a colleague, a partner, a friend, and they respond with approval, encouragement, warmth. So at that moment, you receive a social reward for the work that does not yet exist. The mind is remarkably easy to satisfy with symbols, a purchase, an announcement, a plan written out in detail. These all produce genuine neurochemical reward, but reality is a strict accountant. It does not count what you intended, what you bought, or what you have announced. Reality only counts what happened, what was repeated and sustained past the point where it stopped being interesting. The market will always sell you the ladder, but it will never sell you the climb. The ladder makes you feel like a new person today, but it's the climb that makes you confront the fact that you're still the old person tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning is where most people quit, because tomorrow morning does not care what you bought. So what do I suggest a person does with this? Something very simple. Treat every purchase as a tool, not a trophy. When you buy a program, a service, a membership, a diagnostic, and you feel that immediate rush of pride, that sense of I'm finally on it, notice that feeling. You can even enjoy it, but label it accurately. That feeling is not progress. That feeling is preparation for progress, and preparation is necessary, but it is not the same thing as change. Change begins at the precise moment when the purchase stops producing emotion and starts demanding behavior from you. When the program is no longer new, when the wearable data is no longer novel, when the coach asks you to do the thing you already know you should be doing and you don't feel like doing it. That is the starting line. Everything before that was the transaction, and everything after it is the transformation. You pay attention, you pay effort, you pay time, and you pay it again and again and again. That is earning. And earning is way slower than buying, but earned change has one property that purchase change will never have. It does not disappear when the initial feeling fades, because it's not made of anticipation, it's made of evidence. And that evidence is not something you can click confirm on. You can only live it.